Huh. Huh. How about now? Do you hear me now? Still no sound. How about now? Okay. I think I have sound. Oh man. Hello. What's up, Chris? Do you hear me now? Aha, good to see you here. Yes. Okay, good. I'm so sorry. Technology is not my thing. Okay, cool. So I guess I have to start over. I need to show you Auryn and Ouroboros. Okay. I need to show you this. Okay. This is the carving. So these are snake heads. You may not have realized it before, but there are multiple ones in the Ouroboros. And so for me, it was very easy to adapt the Ouroboros into Auryn, right? So there, and so you'll see eyes. There's like two eyes and another two eyes. There's eyes everywhere. Those are Shadowy's eyes. Shadowy sees everything in our chat until very recently, right? Okay, so this is the carving, and I love this carving. For anybody that cares, shout out to Salvega, who's like a meme master, and thank you. Yeah, it's good to see you too. Um, yeah, he's like memifying everybody, including Shadowy. Okay. So, all right. So this is the Ouroboros totem. It's designed to uplift the protocol, the people, health, wealth, and mission of service beyond self, basically. That's what the totems are for. Um, more traditionally, they're like art, like sacred art for protection and connection, right? So people ask me to carve things to protect their families and stuff like that. So I do it. And so this is why I'm carving. So, okay, why Auryn changes the game. Auryn is, okay, I decided what I'm going to do is instead of starting, I'm going to read a few of Builder Lee's um, tweets here, mostly because he like me spend time in the Ouroboros Telegram, and we've been studying. People want to know if it's if Auryn is Builder Lee's project, and he's not the dev, but he's part of the user group that's in a dialogue with Shadowy, right? And so Auryn, I'm going to describe how it came and what it is and why it changes the game. Okay, but first I want to see if I can find Builder Lee's tweets. Okay. Okay, so this is the most recent one. He says, ORX is about to become the key to everything. Nice. You'll soon be able to, one, mint Auryn with ORX. So that's one thing to think about. It's like of ORX, you'll be able to mint it. He says soon. Two, you'll be able to stake Auryn to earn from future deployments. Put a pin in that. Stake Auryn to earn from future deployments. Right. So that actually helps me to see Auryn on the new staking platform also. Three, use ORX in the USM. Okay, the USM, we're gonna that's the staking platform. How about US? Yeah, how about yeah, so okay, so we're gonna okay, so that's number three. So we'll be able to use ORX in the USM and borrow with ORX. Oh, so he's saying that we are going to have ORX as a collateral asset eventually. So, and then he says, Auryn is the gateway. ORX unlocks it all. Brain. Okay. And then he shows us like one of his art pieces, right? Okay. I just want to read a tweet from Brandon, build the text. Shout out to you, Brandon. The quiet parts out loud. Pulse Chain is a once in a generation opportunity to change the trajectory of your family tree for a century. The window is literally right now. I'm not mincing my words. I totally agree. I agree. And I was going to say what I was saying before I got rudely interrupted by my technology glitch. I was saying I've made two big bets this bull run. One is on Ouroboros and one is on Pulse Chain. Right. So shout out to Brandon and the Build the Tech team and the Morpheus team and the Switch team. Those people are building a monster also. And right. And so okay, why Auryn changes the Ouroboros game. I'm reading Builder Bullish Lee's tweets, a few of them. There was one that where he talked about here. This is the one about the okay. Okay, this is good because this is fundamentals. Auryn will work like the ORX minter, but you'll deposit ORX instead of Titanx, right? And so let me read it again. Auryn will work like the ORX minter, but you'll deposit ORX instead of Titanx. If you don't know the ORX minter, it'll be good to go to the D app and play with it. You don't have to connect the wallet. Play with the existing ORX minter and read the documentations about how ORX got minted, how it's being vested. And so, yeah. And so basically, what Bullish Lee is saying, Auryn will work like the ORX minter, but you'll deposit ORX instead of Titanx. Durations will be shorter to sync with, he says Titanx vests. I think he means ORX vests. Okay. Every entry buys ORX off the market. Okay, I think what he's saying there, yeah, he's also saying the closer we get, the higher the price. Okay, we're not going to create FOMO here. We're educating, but honestly, I'm doing this because I got FOMO last night of for not for Oro, not for ORX, but if I wasn't a vestor, I probably would be having FOMO about ORX, but I don't want to instill any fear. It's more about education and helping people to make wise decisions with whatever the capital we have to invest. Okay. Okay, this is the one that I like. So one thing is that we'll be able to mint Auryn with ORX. There will likely be other input tokens, likely Ethereum, Titanx. I don't know what else, if anything, but there will be inputs, but behind the scenes will be buying ORX and then minting Auryn, I believe, is how it will work. And then Bullish Lee says, think about Auryn, think of Auryn as the center of the wheel. Okay. Each ORX deployment is a spoke. With each successful deployment, value flows inward. More deployments, more spokes, more income directed to the core. Okay, I got it. Okay, then I want to come back to that one. It's this idea of Auryn being the vehicle to capture value from expansion. Okay, that's the big idea there. Is Auryn, which is a derivative of ORX, will somehow capture the value from, and we'll come back to that, each ORX deployment. He's talking about each ORX deployment, and that means the USDX technology, the staking platform product, and anything else that Shadowy is building, is dreaming up for this next level launch that's coming. Okay. Now, then he says, Bullish Lee says, Auryn input tokens. And by the way, I suspect all of this is subject to change. This is like the actual documentation will be coming. And so I think what Bullish Lee is doing, and I'm following his lead, is starting to educate about what is coming, just to make people aware. So he says Auryn input tokens, and he makes a little infinity or spirals. Okay. Every Ethereum and Titanx deposit will instantly buy ORX from the market. Okay. Auryn tracks deposits in ORX USD terms. If you're planning to enter, he says dollar cost average before launch. Most importantly, he says learn more, go to the Telegram. That's the key. Like, that's the key. Go study, and you can study fast and hard. Okay. I want to go back to think about Auryn, because I said, like, why does Auryn change the Ouroboros game? Well, I want to tell you where I think it came from. And I think it's a good story about how innovation happens in a decentralized way when there's a strong, experienced leader, shadowy, super shadowy, who's then convened like a dialogue with a user group. It's a community for sure. It's a community of investors. People are investing time, money, energy, right? But it's also this like it's a user group. It's like this place where we go who are we're all using Ouroboros, including Shadowy. Like he's part of the user group. That's the beauty of it. And eventually it's like, there's been a there's been a little bit of a community takeover that Shadowy has ordered, right? And so that's beautiful, right? Eventually protocols want to rely less and less on like the founder creators, right? We want them growing beyond, especially if they have decentralized aspirations. And with Ouroboros, there's a DAO, right? And there's an aspiration to make it a decentralized network, right? And right now we're perfectly poised, especially now that I see the role that Auryn plays in the emerging economy. So I just want to read. So let's keep it artistic now. Let's not get too attached to what it is until we see the documentation, because how I think we know what we can expect from Super Shadowy right now, because how Super Shadowy communicates is with words. First, the code, like the code rules, the math in the code. The math is built into the code. It's programmable money. It's borrowing and lending. It's like banking on the blockchain, right? And so Super Shadowy is like responsible for the code. It rules, right? And then there's innovation, right? On the core invention, and the core platform. And I think Auryn comes from a well, okay, so what it is it's a derivative that, like ORX, think about it as the granddaddy token of the Titanx incubator, right? That spawned the product, the platform, the DAO, right? And now the first build on it is Auryn. And it's definitely changed the game for me. And where it came from is a friction that Shadowy and others in the chat noticed. It was a friction between investors, people like me, who, put our Titanx in and are still vesting. It takes 365 days to fully vest. And so people that really want to optimize how much of the cap supply that I have and that I've accumulated for me and my son and my parents and my friend, I've accumulated through putting Titanx in and letting it vest. I'm a vestor, and that's like a long-term thing. It takes a year. We can early claim it, but for a variety of reasons, there's some early claiming, but the chat was feeling like there's a lot of supply and there was a tension between the vestors and the liquid holders, right? And this is this is what I would call a perfect example of a healthy tension that spawns innovation. And Auryn has been dreamed up by Super Shadowy for sure. Now he's had it clearly in his head, like probably knew what it was called, but recently when he was ready to engage his community in a dialogue, he created a separate chat all of a sudden called Auryn. And those of us who know him like, oh, what's Auryn? And so then Auryn, there's a dialogue, and I think we'll see the documentation for Auryn soon. But what it did was, I think so the friction was there are liquid holders that are feeling like the vestors got such a great deal, And all we have to do is, and it's true, but we were also the ones that took the highest risk. We were the ones that said, hey, I believe in Ouroboros. I've looked under the hood. I've been in a dialogue. And when everyone else was saying, we don't believe this, we don't trust this, were the ones who were studying and said, no, 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 this is a solid. So I think that investors, we got what we deserved, which is we believed and we invested our time and energy in studying. And but the liquid holders are part of the community, right? And they were expressing concerns and fears and doubts about the supply coming out and the possibility of people with big supply dumping that supply. And so there's like, and so what came out of it, and I loved how Shadowy explained this to us in writing. Basically, the tension was like from long-term holders who have done well to liquid holders who are also believers, but are feeling at risk by the supply dynamics, right? And so Auryn started as a effort to balance the playing field, to give liquid holders of ORX like the advantage, which like if someone likes the long-term growth trajectory in collateral assets, basically the stablecoin as service business, right? With collaterals on Ethereum and anywhere. If people like that, then Auryn is going to be the ORX derivative that is the token to have and hold and stake if you want the fee sharing, the revenue that will be coming in from the expansion that is projected, right? It's just projected. We're still in the incubator phase, but where we're launching next is to, and this is where only, and I'm very comfortable not knowing the details here, because I think that these are relationship-based strategic alliances that will emerge over the next period of time. And I don't know who they're with or what chain they're on, but I do know that there's a pipeline of interest. Founders want the technology of the USDX technology, which is a multi-collateral stablecoin, right? Founders, builders, protocols, communities want the technology. So basically, Auryn is the first build on Ouroboros. It came out of, I think Shadowy, he's been talking about it, giving us hints for months. But I think recently it came together, you know, in a series of dialogues with liquid holders, investors, and I think everyone's aligned that we want everyone to win. That's the idea. How do we create this win-win-win to start with the existing investors, because we're the owners, right? Through our equity holding, even investing ORX. And so what Auryn does is it gives liquid holders access. Because why? Now that doesn't mean the liquid holder has to mint Auryn with it. But if you like the idea of ORX as a fee sharing token, I think we're gonna love, or I'm gonna love the idea. Now I get it. Auryn is the fee and revenue sharing for the growth trajectory of the technology, right? And ORX represents the incubator, right? It's the Titanx ecosystem incubator. And so I think, so for me, it changes the game. I'm like, huh. So I think about it from my own perspective and also the perspective of the people that, I'm holding vesting ORX on behalf. So I think about that, but I also think about what would I think about doing if I were a newcomer? If I if I had never either heard of ORX or I don't hold ORX or I don't when I don't even know what Auryn is, like what would I think in those two? So the easier one is because that second one is hard, is like, but the easier one is, well, what will I do? Right. And what I'll say is that I've it's already changed how I'm thinking about my vesting ORX. And I won't make any decisions until I see the white paper or the documentation. Right. And I won't. Right. And so and that's why I think we've got a period of time here, I would say at least a week or two or three or four to study and to figure out if this makes sense. So from my own perspective as a vestor, someone that was wanting to hold as much ORX as I could, yes, to take a percentage, use a percentage of it to take profits into USDX, right? Because I like the idea of Ouroboros being my, you know, I actually see Pulse Chain now emerging as one of my banks on the blockchain. Now that I see what's happening over there, and I'm really happy about that because that's my other bet. That's why I was sacrificed for Pulse Chain and Pulse X, and that's why I'm, migrating Titanx value over there because I'm glad that finally Pulse Chain is going to find its legs. But I like the idea of holding crypto assets on Ouroboros, and so when I think about my vesting Ouroboros, I thought about a percentage of it for taking profits into USDX, right? You know, it would be nice to have, and I think there will be, anyway, we don't need to talk about that, but, a way to take profits, into USDX. That's one thing for my vesting ORX. The other is that I was intending like large percentages of my ORX to just stake because I like the idea of having the ORX equity to stake and to be part of the fee sharing pool because I thought that that's what was going to, that the growth was going to feed it. But now I see the more agile, the better, more integrated solution. The beauty of Auryn and the thing that it did is not only does it give liquid holders like an advantage now, because liquid holders don't have to buy. The rest of us have to buy or claim early our vest, right? And so it creates this incredible gamified opportunity. And that's why I wanted everyone who's listening to like make your own plan, not my plan, make your own, whatever you want to do. So, but for someone like me, who really was a big percentage of my ORX, let's say at least 50%, probably more, I was intending to hold just long term, at least, right? But we would have seen, right? Because sometimes like things happen in terms of price going up or down or, and so I always adjust, but at least 50% I was thinking was going to be staking and locking and basically making the bet on the long-term growth of the ecosystem, right? And because I had some insight from our like business development conversations in the chats, in the different chats, I had some insight to where the business opportunities were, and I was making guesses, educated guesses, right? And I was like, oh, I see the potential here. I see the potential that what we have here is a unique technology. Yes, it's a liquidy fork, but it's a unique technology that's been adapted, innovated, invented, to scale in a very different way than anyone else has done it. So shout out to Shadowy for inventing like the USDX technology that, and also this idea of how to scale it, which will become clear in the next months and years, right? But it really is, it's an elegant strategy to decentralize the whole effort, right? Which is part of the reason why Shadowy's been handing over responsibility, because he knows he can't do it all. He's a one-person operation, and uses like auditors to support, and I'm sure his thought partner people, but like part of this is like a decentralized effort to achieve a level of scale in terms of total value lock that is potentially huge, right? It could really scale, right, in a way that it's very hard to see right now, because it's moving into this space, which is collateral backed stabilizing assets. That's huge growth. And so, yeah, it really has huge potential. So that's why Auryn has, in my mind, has replaced ORX. Not, I mean, I love ORX. I'm going to keep on having, I'm going to have it. But what I see is the part of me that wanted to hold and stake and lock and make the fee sharing equity investment and bet on the Ouroboros technology scaling. That's what I wanted. That's why I was accumulating so much Ouroboros long term, because I was like, you know what? It's definitely not Aave, but it feels enough alike Aave, enough of the to for me to see like the 1, 2, 3, and 6 and 8 year trajectory of growth, right? That's how I saw Ouroboros when I first read the documents and I saw what it was. I was like, wow. Now, as I've seen the technology, the products, and the strategy, as I've seen it emerging, I think, wow, even more in terms of its potential, like as a service, right? As a white label service, and not just the stable coin, but the staking platform. The whole thing is designed to scale horizontally to other collaterals and other communities and other founders. And so for me, that's really exciting, because I've never seen a model like that. And it also gives people like me and others a potential role, right? If we want a stake in the long term, well, we can work for it. We can participate in the chat. When in the DAO, we can bring in deals and partner. Right? There's a place for, uh, for, I'm going to call myself an investor. Okay, I'm an owner. I hold vesting. I hold it, in my wallets. It's money. It's programmable money. Okay. And so, okay, enough said. Why Auryn changes the game. Okay, so what I think it does is, so for investors, I think a lot of us are going to have to think long and hard about, like, how does it adjust? And so I'm going to let it sink in over the next weeks and study the documents and ask questions and participate in the education. And, you know, by the time launch happens, and I have no idea when, and it doesn't matter really. It'll happen when it's ready, right? When it's safe, when it's smart, when it's ready. And by that time, I'll know exactly what I'm going to do, just because that's how I am. And then I'll just sort of do what even if it's wrong, it's okay. I've decided. And yeah, and I think I'm going to have to think through because I have different people. I like there's for me, there's for my son. Like, wouldn't it be nice, for example, for my son's, like, he's got like a vest, a long-term vest. Now, I want that to go to maturity, right? Unless, for example, that's why having like two and like a ladder is good because you can break these up. So I do have a ladder. So like maybe for him, like I would let one go to maturity and just, it's like that's the, you hold that forever, baby. This is like he's 18. He just turned 18, right? And like this is like the ORX, vest. And then maybe the other half of the bag, you know, I use on his behalf to mint Auryn. Why? Because especially for a young guy, like who's like he's a worker. Like he builds stuff. He builds bikes and mountain bikes and he's like repairing everything and building and creating, right? Like for a young guy like him, like having this idea of passive income from a growing, and the assumption here is the assumption is growth, continuous. It doesn't have to be all up. But this is a protocol that's going to keep on building even in the bear market, right? It's like it's 365 until it's fully self-sufficient and the Dow takes care of it, right? This is going to keep on building. And so like for someone like my son or for someone else young who's like, I would say for sure have some Auryn. That's a stake in the passive income machine that the Ouroboros technology can feed into the Auryn holders and staker class, right? Now, I don't know. I imagine Auryn will be launched with the staking platform. And so there will be, I don't know, an Auryn or X pool, probably, maybe Auryn USDX. I don't know. I have no idea. But I can imagine that it'll launch together, and then Auryn will stand in for that fee sharing token that represents the global expansion, and ORX is probably still the governance token, I would imagine, right? Once it gets fully vested, and once all the supply is out, I believe ORX would be the governance token and Auryn would then be the global fee sharing token, something like that. But I think we'll see when the documents come out soon. But that's what it looks like to me. And so, yeah, it totally changes everything that I've been thinking. Which is beautiful, actually. It's like it's a sign of innovation, and let me tell you why I think it's innovative. So there was a little bit of dialogue on X around, you know, are derivative assets just dilution? And I think in this case, it's it's not diluting Ouroboros at all. It's burning a lot of it. First of all, I don't know what the burning dynamic, but it's gonna take a lot of supply. Think about me. I'm gonna figure out what percentage of my Ouroboros am I gonna mint into and then that ORX will be deployed that I put into the smart contract, right? So I'm thinking it through now. So ORX and Auryn are going to be, a beautiful pair, right there. And that's the artistic here. And it was so easy to expand Ouroboros into, at first I thought I was going to have to do a whole nother carving until I realized, no, we've got the Auryn already in the carving all over, right? And yeah, I think with that piece also, I'm going to stain it like the colors of Ouroboros, and I'm going to dot paint it like like some of the colors that actually Sal Vega is using in his art, in like the meme art, the shadowy meme art, like some of those colors, and also Lee's art, right? Those two are like have real artistic, like it doesn't matter the tools we use, it's really like it requires even with AI art, it requires like a vision at least in order to like get really good results. That's why Sal is getting really good results right now, is because he's like, I don't know, man. He's like really good at it. And he's really good at taking other stuff. It's like the hip hop culture where you sort of take stuff and like meld it all together, and then that's the new art form. Yeah, it's really hot. So okay, Oren, how long has this been? It has to be under an hour. Um, okay, why Oren changes the Ouroboros game? Ah, yeah, it's like it it requires. It's really good because I think that yeah, I think it's going to be really good because um, if you think about how protocols work, right? It's the holders. Like what we're trying to build is a holder group that has a long-term perspective. That's not to say that people can't take profits. There will be. But part of this is to protect the collective effort from big holders just dumping, right? We want ORX and Orin to be crazy valuable and needed, right? By the right people who believe in or who want this decentralized lending protocol to thrive over time and are willing to work for it, right? Even in a volunteer collective way, because yeah, it's volunteer. No one's paying anybody, right? But we're working for, not only working for our bags, but we're collaborating, right, on how do we grow the baby, right? So yeah, so it changes the game. Oren, I don't see the chart yet, right? With Ouroboros, I was like, oh, I get it right away. I was like, I get it. Don't even think about the chart. It's gonna out. I knew that because of the gamification, I knew it was gonna outperform Titan X. I just knew it. So that's why I was happy, vesting, putting my Titan X and letting the RX vest. I just knew that it would win that one just because of token economics, the product market fit, the fee sharing, everything. I just knew it. Um, but now what we've got in Orin is going to be, I don't know the scarcity dynamics or the supply dynamics. We're going to have to see when we see the documents. I don't know that yet. But what I imagine is it's going to be a scarce supply burning, and it's going to be designed to hold, stake, and lock for the passive income that's going to be coming with exponential growth and if we think about Lee's metaphor of the wheel, Auryn, like Ouroboros is here, and Auryn represents each deployment coming back to Auryn, right? And so imagine one new deployment, collateral asset and community, and then imagine two, and then imagine 10, right? 10 spokes, 12. Like if we think about the first 10 to 12, for example, we can now see that, oh, so now Auryn becomes, it's not a bet, it's an investment. It is a bet, but it's an investment in the potential. And we're going to start to see, I think we're going to see Auryn show up before the fruits of the labor, meaning that, like, Auryn, like Ouroboros, is speculation on the success of the protocol, right? And if Auryn's going to succeed, that means Ouroboros is going to succeed. So they're fully intertwined with each other. Now I'm seeing they have different functions in the core Ouroboros economy, right? Ouroboros is the base asset, right? Something might build on Auryn at some point if someone, but Ouroboros is the base asset for the economy. And then Auryn is built on it, right? And then there will be other things built on Ouroboros too, which is really now the value proposition for people not only buying Ouroboros to put into Auryn, because if I didn't have ORX vesting and I had Ethereum or Titanx to put into something, I would strongly consider buying Ouroboros now. It's not the absolute bottom, but it's close enough to the bottom that it's still buying blood. And probably I was thinking about this because I know people are going to ask me, like new people are going to start asking, like, what do I do? And I'm always going to say, I don't know, it's up to you. You're going to have to educate yourself. But I will put myself in if you tell me how much money you have to lose or to invest, I'll say, okay, if it were me with that amount of money, here's what I would do. So I think about, for my son, for example, let's assume, and he hasn't said this, but let's assume he told me, Dad, I have $1,000 to put into something. I have $1,000 worth of Ethereum. What do I put it in now? Right? I was like, oh man. I do think I would counsel him, if he wanted to stay on Ethereum, because I think there's a counter argument on Pulse Chain, but I don't want to make it now. But if let's assume he wanted, he was like, nah, I don't believe in Pulse Chain. I saw all that sacrifice. I don't buy it. I'm like, all right. But I'm like, but you like Ethereum? He's like, yeah, I like Ethereum. I was like, look, hold your Ethereum. He's like, no, I want leverage on Ethereum. I was like, oh, well, you can get Titanx. He's like, nah, I'm not feeling that compared to, because you are always talking about Ouroboros. Why Ouroboros, right? So for someone like my son who has $1,000, much like I'm thinking for him, I think I'll probably split 50-50. Maybe it's a third for him, a third ORX, a third like Auryn, and maybe a third to take profits into USDX. That's probably what I'll do for my son and most of the people, is something like that. For me, I'll do it a little differently. That'll be a secret. That'll be my secret. But for most of my people, I think that's what I would do. So for $1,000 right now, huh? That's interesting. I would have said buy some USDX and stake it in the backstop pool and get vesting ORX. And that's always nice, but I think a more expeditious play, something that might get more bang for our buck, even though that's a huge bang for the stable buck. I think right now what my son would be looking for are the exponential gains. And so if I were looking for exponential gains, yeah, with $1,000, I would buy $1,000 probably today on the dip of Ouroboros. And then half of it I would just hold and stake that, right? And become part of the DAO. Because when you stake it, when eventually the DAO will be governed by on-chain ORX, I think. And at that point, it'll be cool to like have some ORX, OG ORX, and stake it, and you'll make the passive income from the incubator, and you probably have a DAO voice and a vote, right? That's cool. So I'd say that, and I think long term, there's going to be a lot more build on ORX, and so it's going to be. I think there's going to be demand for the ORX token once people see that you can build on ORX and get all of the utilities that are attached to the platform, right? Um, yeah, and then the other, I would probably, I don't know what it'll be. I don't know what the minting schedule would be, but what I would do is do it for the long term win of Auryn. Like Auryn is going to be intended to like hold stake and make passive income off of the all the deployments. If that's the idea, and if I believe in the ORX growth, then Auryn is that. And so that's where I would say, all right, half of it is just in the, is in the OG build on ORX governance token to just use that, and then half is probably in Auryn. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would suggest to him, and probably what I would suggest to any newcomer, so that that you don't overindulge in what's new, Oren, though you respect you respect the potential of it, because I think it's potentially huge, right? And I haven't even thought about the price action, right? And I haven't even thought, because we don't know what it's going to be paired with, right? We don't know, but if we see, so after this initial minting investing period, I think what Builder Lee is pointing at is a shorter vesting time. I don't know if it's, so 365 is it may be 180 days, it may be half of that. I don't know, maybe 90 days. We don't know. I think we'll see soon. But whatever it is, I would probably say I would use probably half of my ORX of my son's for my son's RX, and put it into the, and mint and vest like Auryn. As much Auryn as I could get for the ORX is what I would want to do. Because I would want to get as much Auryn, OG Auryn, because then it's in a very scarce supply. What's maybe seems relatively low in dollar value now, when something 1,000x or like 16,000x, which is like what Aave did, right, over 6 years or something. Aave 16,000x from the time when I saw it until I looked at it last spring, which it was like went from 18 cents to $163, right? ORX could have a similar or even more explosive. It could be more or less. We don't know, but the point is that the exponential growth potential for Auryn, depending on, I think we're going to see once, like, we don't know, we're going to see what the deals are in the pipeline. That's the thing. And Shadowy, who's our deal maker, is, has to keep these private. This is a business, right? These are startups. Like, who's ever responsible has to do things privately. That's how business works anywhere, even in decentralized finance, right? And so, like, I think we'll see the structure of these of the first deployments of the ORX technology, and then we'll see what we're now speculating on, which is like, what might the yield of Auryn look like? What might the fee sharing? Well, we don't know until it actually, that's the beauty. We'll see, like, in white paper form, and then we can start talking about it. But even now, I think what I'm trying to do is digest it for myself and anyone else who's also trying to make good decisions for self, helping to digest like this innovation, both from the perspective of a ORX liquid holder. Okay, if I were a big ORX liquid holder, it would really depend on my motivations, right? If I was speculating, if I was a liquid holder of ORX, just wanting to speculate and not wanting to bet on fee sharing and percentage of equity ownership in the bank. Like, some of us may want that. Other people just want to hold a ton of ORX and sell on the way up. So it's fine. Right? So if I were that kind of ORX liquid holder, I'd be psyched right now, honestly. And I'm not a big liquid holder because I've vested. Okay. I've been buying a little bit at the bottom just because I like buying blood and, and having a little bit, but I'd be psyched because this is going to take a lot of supply off the market, a lot of other potential sellers off the market. It's going to really crunch the supply, which in supply and demand, when Ouroboros becomes hot, people are going to be speculating and buying ORX token, especially when the flywheel starts. And we've got a buy and burn that has 4 trillion Titan-X with the intention to use it. I mean, the ORX token is going to fly, especially with a lot of the supply for a lot of long-term holder believers wanting the long-term. So for liquid holders who really just want to hold and sell into like the bull market, it's amazing, right? And that's good. But I would say, and I know there will be people that just want to accumulate to sell, and that's fine. That's part of the market, right? The other kind of holder, or like in the chat, are other big liquid holders that maybe want to do both. Like, if it were me, like, and actually now that I'm thinking about it, I know some liquid holders, some big liquid holders, and now they're going to come to me and they say, well, what do I do with it? And I'm like, I don't know. Go study. Go get in the Auryn Telegram and ask Shadowy and ask the experienced people questions. Everyone's nice, collaborative. Get in the Auryn Telegram. All right. So Auryn Telegram, new people are going to start going in there. Right. Yeah, so I think I think there's a lot of traumatized altcoin investors now. But I think that liquid holders of ORX are holding liquid gold, man. I mean, liquid gold. And so if it were me, let me think. If it were me, I'm trying to be as honest as I can. And it's not me, I'm making this up. But if it were me, and let's say I had, how much is a billion? Or how much is a million ORX right now? Anybody know? I don't want a bunch of booze, token fatigue, and copy paste fly. Yeah, I agree. Um, right. So Chip person, they're like, first of all, I think people learned the lesson of too many build on Titanx protocols. Like, so I'm not concerned about that, especially right now. This build on Ouroboros is, I agree, token fatigue. I agree, but Auryn is like an incredible fee sharing token that does the whole ecosystem amazing. And then I could also imagine a few other build on Ouroboros that are real utilities on the platform that are really going to be good. So, but I totally agree with you 100%. We don't want any copy and paste flywheel stuff. And this is part of the reason why um, this is like the first sort of flywheel thing that I've seen. It's actually has flywheel utility and fee sharing potential. I mean, this is why it's a unique. Auryn is a unique setup, and I think you're right. Let's not like think about more build on Ouroboros. As far as I'm concerned, we're good until the bear market, and then Shadowy will figure out like what Shadowy's doing, and I'm listening. I'm not. What he's doing is, and he's telling his user community, right? It's how he interacts with all of us there. He's like basically said, like with the staking platform, he was asking himself what's needed, right? What's needed in order to basically fill out the stablecoin platform offer. So that came from the staking platform, came what was needed to pair with the USDX technology to access the market that we know is there and in huge demand of the technology. And so the staking platform came out of what's, he said, basically, what do I need for the protocol, right? Auryn came from what do we need to take away, which is when I heard him say that, I was like, damn, this guy he's really good. This is a startup product entrepreneur who knows what he's doing, right? Who really knows how to like get product market fit and has built a gem, right? Built they've and just keeps on building. So Auryn, he was like, oh, I built that with the question, the design question of like, what do I need to take away to make Ouroboros even stronger? And so part of it, I think the design question turned into an elegant solution that also responded to the natural friction in the holder group, liquid investors. And so I think what we took away is we took away some of the friction, which is amazing, right? And we also created like a huge win for the platform. Why? Because we're going to burn a ton of ORX, right? And we're going to um, give newcomers and liquid holders like a fair shot to get the exponential growth, right? Because some people are like, oh, I didn't get in early enough to ORX. And even when I say, well, we're close to the bottom, buy it. People are like, no, I want to. So what this does is it gives us an opportunity to, yes, buy or ORX or use our ORX. So either buy it or use it. to then mint Auryn, right? And because there's going to be a compressed schedule, we'll see what it is, 3 months or 6 months, I don't know. There will be a compressed vesting schedule. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. All right. So yeah, so this is just the beginning. I got to stop talking about it because I think I've shared everything that I know. And I think the next phase of our education, I mean, we're going to keep on learning ourselves and educating each other, but the next phase of it is Shadowy will be documenting whatever he's going to document and then really leading the education. And how we're going to do that is he's going to lead. This is how he does it. He's going to document it using code and then the written word, right? There'll be documents, probably white paper, and he'll do his informative educational tweets. And then, you know, he and his community of supporters will be in Telegram, in dialogue with anyone that needs questions answered and all that good stuff. So, any other comments from the crowd? Anybody, Chip Chipperson or Fahad or Chris? Anybody that's actually, if there were a dialogue, hold on, let's see. I've got to stop anyway. I've got to stop. I'm on my iPad and it's about to lose power. Okay, artistically, not that anybody cares. This piece, basically, I mean, I'm probably about 90% done with the carving. Now it's just finished carving. And I'll just do it leisurely over the next month or so while Shadowy is building Auryn and doing all the dev things. I'm going to be carving this out, right? You see that? Yeah. So there's like snake eyes. Oh wait, this is like one of the fundamental shapes right here, right there. We don't know why yet. I'm not even sure why, but it's probably one of the Auryn heads. But I remember carving and I was like, this piece, this is such a great eye. So I was actually thinking, yeah, so Ouroboros it really has a unique culture. So how cultures work is they're established by the top leader. So that's super shadowy. But then and how he's done this is that he's really democratized access to him, which is really unique. Now, what he's had to do is in order to focus on this next level launch, which is it's really the first scaling out of the Titanx incubator. So we can just imagine what it's going to take in terms of code and relationships and audits and everything, design, everything. It's huge. So part of what he's done is to, he's in the Auryn chat. So if you have questions, anyone has questions with Auryn, he's not there 24/7, but the point is, part of the reason why I carved all the eyes in, literally the eyes, not just the Ouroboros archetypal creature, but eyes, because I saw that super shadowy has eyes everywhere, literally, meaning he sees everything in his baby. Okay. And that's what we want, right? When you have like a founder, builder, creator who is responsible for everything and really has to protect it, like they are going to need eyes everywhere. And what I saw was, I'm a student of leaders, right? I was like, wow, this guy has, and I started to see him because in every telegram, like part of the reason why I went there, because I heard it was getting a little unruly, and I like to just help people to collaborate when possible. And so, but what I found was a really collaborative telegram culture, right? And but Shadowy's eyes, especially when trying to educate and build at the same time and get into dialogue and squash FUD and it's hard. And so I started carving like the multiple eyes in Ouroboros. And so that's part of the carving. And now that I know that Auryn has showed up, which is basically a double Ouroboros. And so artistically, it's perfect. It's like perfect. And at first I thought I was going to have to start a whole nother piece, but then I just started, no. And so what I'm going to do is this piece, I'm going to finish carving it over the next few weeks. And then I'm going to start sanding it, just hand sanding. Rough sanding. And then I need to find some stain. I'm going to do some purple, blue, black stain. And then I'm going to dot paint like some of the features in like not psychedelic, but some of the like neon white and gold and some diamond teeth, right? Gonna get some bling on the Ouroboros, right? And so the Ouroboros carving is gonna have some color and bling attached to it, just because I think it's fitting. All right, I gotta go. Peace out, y'all. Um, unless there's anyone. Any comments? Chipperson, Fahad, anyone else? I agree, man. I don't want a bunch of build-ons either, especially at this point in the cycle. I'm more focused. I do like what Ascend Lend is doing. I like what Builder Lee and Sal Vega are doing with Ascend Lend. Because and I don't know when it's launching, but I did look at the white paper and I like it. I like it because it serves a niche and a need. And it seems to be a good borrowing and lending platform, assuming there's a demand in the assets that they've listed in the white paper. And I think a lot of that has to do with how wealthy, Tight necks and build on Tight necks holders are feeling. Right now, people are feeling wrecked unless you're in one of the few protocols that's doing well, right? Mm. All right. Peace out, y'all. And I'm gonna be oh yeah, so the other thing is this is not related to this, but I've been also studying. So I like to share, I realize I like to educate when I can, basically what I'm studying and what I'm doing. So that's why I'm like gonna be for the next months focused on Ouroboros and Auryn. And I'm gonna be focused on pulse chain. And that means tight necks on pulse chain. And I want to give a shout out to the Morpheus, Switch, Build the Tech team. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. I saw a tweet that Brandon tweeted, Brandon, who's the founder of Build the Tech and has built Switch and Morpheus. He made a shout out to builders, which I was psyched to see because I've migrated my value, my Titanx value that's not in Ouroboros to Pulse Chain. I have bought Eros and I'm very happy to do that. And I've, you know, re-engaged on Pulse Chain, mostly through PDI and Bear, but other Pulse Chain assets. So I don't know. I got lost. What was I saying? Oh, Brandon. Yeah. So his shout out was I'll read this to I'm going to do a thing on this because I want to talk about what I think he might be talking about because I don't really know. But what he said was builders bridge over and deepen the LPs, deepen the liquidity on Pulse Chain. He said, Titanx builders, if you're going to do it now. And I'm like, right on. Why? Because that's good, because then we get volume. I think Brandon and others will have to show the way, but there are already builders doing this, right? We've got Rich Landon and Alley and Smooth, to name a few, that have already moved over Flare and Smoke and Lotus and Eden. And we'll see what's moving next. But Brandon is pointing to the potential. He's thinking something. I know Brandon is Pulse Chain native, and I hear Brandon right now thinking macroeconomically about what's going to happen on Pulse Chain. So I think Switch and Morph and Build the Tech are basically inviting in Titanx builders onto Pulse Chain, and I like that. I don't know for what yet, but I'm gonna ask enough questions so that when the right time for us to know, and I think it's got to be soon, right? So, but I guess it's the shout out to any Build on Titanx builder that's listening. Say, hey, ask Brandon what he's meaning, right? Follow up with Brandon because Brandon knows Pulse Chain really well. And he's also built like some unbelievable products, right? And then another shout out also to cryptographics, right? Cryptographics has like and Build the Tech, I think, are the builders for Taurus and then for Unity. And Taurus is beautifully designed and executed, right? So shout out to cryptographics and to Build the Tech team for delivering Taurus, which is like a well-oiled machine 20 days in, and soon about to launch on Pulse Chain, right? So anyway, I morphed a little bit, but I just want to give a shout out to cryptographics for the work and the work ethic and the beautiful design and like how it's working. It's beautiful, and props to you. And also for being able to straddle both you and Brandon straddle Titanx and Pulse Chain really well. And so so Pulse Chain also. Yeah, so the big bets are for me Ouroboros and now Auryn, as well as Pulse Chain and the speculation on Pulse Chain, which is going to be huge. Peace out. I gotta go.